You know, we still get a lot of questions regarding Whiggley, both on the forum and also in person when we're at trade shows. So I wanted to go through the complete process for you to explain everything from making the master, making the mold, using tungsten, using Alumidust, and even locking it in with a clear coat of Alumisol. So let me walk you through the entire process, and hopefully for the newbie that wants to create a Whiggley, maybe this whole entire process will be a little bit more clear.
First thing I did is start off with some Sculpey. You gotta knead it together to soften it up, but then it rolls out pretty easily. I used a PVC pipe to act as a rolling pin. Then I just pressed the Sculpey out to get the basic shape, and started cutting the fins in the basic body shape. Then I added a little bit of thickness around the head and a little definition behind the gill plate. Roll it out and continue to work the detail and the thickness until you get them exactly the way you want them. Take your time and make sure it's perfect. Every bit of detail is going to show up in the finished part. To give it a pattern or some scales to it, I just simply took a screen and pressed it into the Sculpey. This leaves the impression of the screen and gives it a little bit of definition. I compare it to the other size and I have a much smaller Whiggley than our original. Now I simply bake it in an oven at 275 degrees for about 10 minutes. Now it hardens right up. We're ready to peel it off of the pan and sculpt the other side. If we try sculpting both sides at one time, it's really difficult to get the two sides even and consistent because they're both soft. This allows me to work on one side, get it perfect, bake it, then flip it over and start working on the other side. Once I clean it all up and I get the thickness the way I want it, I once again press the screen into it to give me the definition and a little bit of pattern to it. Now all I have to do is bake it again and I'm ready to start molding it. Once it comes out of the oven, it's all hardened up. I can actually drill through it to put the pin where the tube for the eyes is going to go. Make a mold box so that the pin fits into. Seal it up really good. Now we're ready to pour our silicone. The next morning we come in, break away our mold box, remove our pin, and we're ready to remove the original sculpture from our mold. First thing we're going to do is make a bigger pour hole for the Alumisol. Then we're going to slice the mold down the top to remove the sculpture. If you do this gently, you'll probably salvage your master and not break it. But don't be surprised if you break a tail fin. Now we have a silicone rubber mold. We're almost ready to pour. Before we pour it, we got to cut our tube that's going to support the eyes, and also do our brass wire from the eyelet and wrap that around the tube for the eyes. You've seen Larry do this a bunch of times before, so this may be repetitive, but just gives you a different view of it. Here, instead of running a pin through the nose, I'm just going to lay a small slit. And I'm going to lay the brass wire with the tube right in that horizontal slit. place a pin back in the mold to hold the tube, and this is what it looks like. Now we're ready to get the eyes ready. The stems on these eyes are too long, so we cut them down. And then to add color to the eyes, we simply use a paint pen and we paint the back side of the eyes. This allows us to make a clear eye or any color eye that we choose simply by painting the back side of them. Here we're adding some Alumidust to the mold to color our Whiggley. We want to add some weight. The best way to do this is to take some aluminous and make a high concentration of tungsten. Then we go ahead and pour straight aluminous into the tail and a little bit into the belly, and then we come back and add the heavily weighted tungsten aluminous to the part that we want, which is the head and the belly. Then we completely fill the mold with straight aluminous or colored aluminous, depending on the color that you're going for. We let the excess squish out of the top seam and we wait for it to cool. Once it cools, we're ready to remove it from the mold. Now we're ready to put our eyes on. A little bit of super glue, an accelerator, and we press the eyes into the tube that the brass is wrapped around. To really seal in the Alumidust and give the Whiggley a really high gloss, we use Larry's trick of dipping this into some straight aluminous with softener. That'll give it a nice high gloss coat finish. We're now ready to throw our one-of-a-kind Whiggley that's got tungsten and Alumidust. Looks beautiful, and I'm sure it'll catch some fish. If you have any questions on this or any process for making molds and casting your own lures, give us a call, toll free at 800-447-9344.